With my friend and colleague Bernard-Marie Chiquet, a certified Holacracy coach with a very deep background as an entrepreneur, corporate leader, coach, trainer, and mediator. He served as CEO at many companies in France, including Capgemini, Ernst& Young, Volkswagen, and also founded a large consultancy of 130 people in Paris. Currently, he's a member of IGI Partners, the first provider licensed by Holacracy One, and fills many key roles there and assists organizations making the shift to the distributed authority system that is Holacracy. And among the many qualities I appreciate about you, Bernard-Marie, are your keen discrimination, your clarifying humor, and the vast storehouse of wisdom and experience that allow you to authentically engage a wide range of people and serve their desire to transform their lives and their organizations. So welcome. It's a real honor to have you here today.
Wow. Thank you very much, Deborah.
Yeah, you're so welcome. So we have some guests here listening in on the call. I just want to invite them at any time to type comments or questions into the chat window, and we'll perhaps integrate them into the conversation. But we have a lot to just explore together. I'd like to just invite you to begin by telling us a little bit about your current practice of holacracy, about your organization, IGI Partners, and the type of roles you fill there and its purpose and all of that. Whatever comes to mind in response to that question.
Yeah, with pleasure. Hello to everybody. Happy to be here. Yeah, well, I'm working within IGI Partners. It's a small company. We are four full-time partners working in that company. This is quite a new one. It has been founded 5 years ago or 6 years ago. And we are fully practicing holacracy and ratify the constitution. Maybe it's a good marker to begin with. The ratification of constitution was very beginning of 2011. And within that company, well, first, IGI Partners is focused on holacracy. It's a higher purpose as we are able to discover it, and it's an ongoing process. Is by now captured as excellence in holacracy. That's where we stand. That's where it stands. That's where we think IGI is. Of course, it's wrong, but in the better sense we have it for it for right now. And within that company, I feel exactly. I counted them for this goal, 40 roles. Exactly 40 roles. I was not aware. When I I do a lot of lectures and trainings, and every time I say that I'm filling only 20 to 30 roles, which is not correct. It's 40. Yeah.
Would you like to say what some of your favorite roles are, or the roles you think of, the roles that first come to mind when you think of the roles you're filling?
Yeah, I think all the roles I'm filling right now, I'm happy to fill them. First in mind is LHP Replink, and I love this role. As I have also, I'm also filling, I think it's about 4 to 5 roles within the Holacracy one, within the Holacracy licensing circle, and I'm also the Replink of this circle. Yeah, I think first to mind is implementation. I'm filling the implementation role, which is a role focused on implementing holacracy with clients. I love that. I spend a lot of days per week working with clients. I love also my design role, with my training design role. I love my trainer roles. I love my spokespersons. I do a lot of lectures, conferences. There is one role I love also is the we are for a couple of months and we're nearly finished. We have in this role, I have done I don't know the word in English, a cartoon to explain holacracy. So we have the choice to go for a book or for another media, and we took the cartoon. So it's great fun to do that. Uh, yeah, blog roles also. Another one is the lead link, and that's very interesting because when we began playing Holacracy, I decided as I was the founder, not to be the lead link. Well, I cannot decide that because it was a board decision, of course. But I'm sure I did a pitch, and that's one of my my way of doing things. And hopefully, the lead link was not me, and that was great. At least for the beginning, it helped me a lot to make a first step within the diffusion, the differentiation between me as a founder to being only a partner filling roles within the organization. So I think for more than 1 year, Margot was the lead link. And then it was time to shift, and it's great. So Margot did a great job, and now I think it's a great place for me. So I can sense, and I think this is I can sense what really is the shift from a conventional manager, which I have been for a long time, and what is a lead link, and I'm exploring that, and that's very interesting for me.
Wow, I want to get into that question with you, but I just first want to acknowledge how unusual it is. Often a founder would start as a lead link and then realize, oh, it's safe to let go of that, but you immediately put yourself in the not a lead link role. How did you know that that was safe enough to try, or would that something you wanted? How did you know that right at the beginning?
Yeah, for me it was obvious because I wanted personally to make a shift, and ratifying the constitution is one thing, but the biggest part is to change habits. Uh, well, there is only one difficult part within holacracy from my perspective. It's just to change habits, and when you are 54 years old, like I am, with a lot of good habits for the past, but very bad habits for now. I decided to go to the most radical other way of doing things. So that's the reason why, and it was obvious for me, not being the lead link at least for the beginning, just to get a taste, to stop being in a position where, yeah, to sense in my gut, in my body, not to be the leader.
Mm.
That's completely unusual for me.
Yeah, that takes a lot of, yeah, it takes a lot of courage and strength and self-awareness that it was time for a shift. And I'd love to hear more about, the distinctions you experience between being a conventional manager and being a leader. And maybe some of your background, you can weave that in too. What was life like on the way to Holacracy? How did you
Yeah.
make yourself into a leader, first of all, and then how did you want to undo that sense of being a leader?
Yeah. Um, yeah. Short answer is uh, being a leader is a nightmare. but but not being a leader is a worst nightmare. That the reason why I became a leader. Well, I began when I was young in whoops, sorry.
Music.
Yeah, I don't know how to stop it. Sorry, it should stop very very short.
Okay. Oh, it's not that loud. Being a leader is a nightmare. That's such an interesting comment. And it
Yeah,
began when you were very young. How did it first manifest?
yeah. I was after studying. I used to. I was hired by a company for a kind of stage, and it was very short. I think I spent 6 months maximum. Um, it was very difficult for me as I was quite creative, having a lot of ideas, and I had to go to the boss. But the boss I had, there was some problem between he and me. So I went to the boss above. He explained to me because I had fit with him. He explained to me that I should not go to him. So, well, you know the game. So I stopped it and I began a company, which was one of my dreams. When I was very young, I had three dreams: having 5 children, having a Porsche, and building a company. So I did.
Wow.
I did build that company, and because I had no skills at all, I decided to do some consulting, which is quite easy to do, and that's a true story.
So hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, and the first client was asking me for logistics, so I became an expert in logistics. And that's true.
Wow.
And so at the beginning it was a quite small company, but then we went up to 50 consultants, and then we go up to 130 consultants. So I become was very focused on going on clients, which I love very much, and at the same time I had to manage the whole thing, and I've not been trained to do that. You know. And I am kind of a saver. That's my nature. I try to get out of this stance, and thanks to Holacracy, it helps a lot. Um, but it was very hard because I was very busy, working 7 days per week. Life balance was not there. A lot of things on the shoulders. Willing to delegate, but unable to do it. Willing to change the structure, but unable and unable, this sense of not having the power to do things. So that was a nightmare. When I say a nightmare, of course there was a lot of fun, and if not, I would not have done that. And then I merged with Ernst and Young, and I became a senior partner with Ernst and Young, which was another game. Very fun to. I like business, so I was specialized in hunting big elephants and signing big deals. I love that game. But I discovered it was quite impossible even to buy, I don't know, a pencil or whatever, a lamp or a chair within my office. I was a senior partner, unable to buy a chair. And at the same time, I was able to sign a big contract of, I don't know how many millions of euros. It was interesting. So because the governance of Ernst & Young was all was unwritten, so you have to learn about that. So it took me a lot of months and years to understand how it works, and so that was a new. And then we all the management consulting we sold to Capgemini. So then I took over new jobs at an exec level, managing huge subsidiaries up to several thousands of people, and that was another sport. I did a lot of restructuring. And the game was different. I was very the difficulty was the same as before, but new difficulties were to manage the top. Yeah, politic games in a such huge company as Capgemini on the stock. Wow! So I discovered that. I tried to play that. I did play well, and then it was enough. I mean, my experience was done. So I tried. I tried to. So I was hunted by a hunter, and I tried to change things within the subsidiary of Volkswagen. A small one. It was only 800 people. So I thought it was much more workable to change things. So I tried to push a lot of new approach, such as organizational learning from Peter Senge, nonviolent communication, well, a lot of stuff like that, and I tried to push her very hard, but it didn't work very well, and I had some difficulties within the Volkswagen group, even if all the results, I mean, on the business part was very good. So that's the story of my first part of life, which means a lot of experience in management, change management as a consultant, both a boss and being bossed, from a small company up to big companies. And then I decided to stop that sport. Yeah,
I love these metaphors you use of sport and play and game. It's so interesting.
yeah, it's game. All is game. That's for sure. And I was sensing that there was something to change, but we were not on the right thing. Let's put that another way. Being a consultant or a manager was impossible for me to allow me to understand how to make a shift. So that's the reason why I decided to get out of that. And I didn't know what to do. So what I did is to learn what I was willing to learn for years. So I learned coaching, so I became a coach. I learned mediation, and I became a mediator. And I learned a lot of stuff. Collective intelligence, sociocracy. I became an expert in sociocracy. And I did trade several hundred of people, and so on and so on. And what I discovered is most with my mediation, I was called by boards or executive teams that have conflict. Because I have the tools, I was able within half a day to treat the situation with them. But what I learned, having doing that a lot, is that the problem they face with interpersonal conflicts are not inability to work together as an executive team or within the board, was not a question of interpersonal relationships or conflicts between people. It was just that there was something to change within the organization. And so I did that for years. So later on, trying to implement sociocracy within organization, which didn't work, I can explain more of that. I was ready to encounter Holacracy, which was about 3 years ago. I think I met you at the very beginning, Deborah, in a PCT. I remember in Philly, and I remember having a discussion with Brian because I was sensing that the training was too costly, too expensive. And then I did the first intro workshop, and then followed by the 5 days certification training. Wow, so much value. And I sensed immediately after the first day that was what I was waiting for years. So I was ready for that, ready to understand that an organization is a living system. I knew that before. I am very aware that the tension, that people sensing tension within the organization, the tension do not belong to people. Just that is a big piece of awareness to carry within organizations. People understanding that when they work for an organization, of course they have their tension, their personal tensions with their spouse or with their children or their cats and dogs, I don't know, but also they would sense tension that do not belong to them. This is only tensions belonging to the organization, and the organization is just using me as a sensor, and I am channeling the tension on behalf of the organization. But I can tell you, everywhere I go within the organization, they don't know that. So that's a great value. So I was very ready for Holacracy, and since then I decided to fully dive with Holacracy, which is one of my I don't know if it is a quality or not.
I think
I,
so. You
I'm
could
not
fully
sure.
dive in.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Ask my wife. And that's so it was 3 years ago, and so from that I discovered Holacracy, this shared power structure, distributed authority system, and that's where I'm right now.
Wow.
Not
I
sure to
just
answer your question, but
that was fantastic, and it's just such a fascinating journey from this this immersion, full immersion in each of these different phases of your life and how they manifested, in the business world, just fully mastering the conventional side, and how rare, how lucky to start your own business at a young age, have it succeed, have it be acquired by successful companies and get bigger and bigger and managing more and more people, and then kind of coming to the end of that, like that fulfilled itself, and then you got more interested like in the relations between people and inside of individuals, it sounds like, and then you kind of came to an end with that. There was something guiding you, but that search had fulfilled itself, and you next got interested in the organizational side of things. And so it seems like both the successes and failures of what you, not the failures from a conventional sense, but just internally something was driving you that wasn't fulfilled by the sports you were playing, it was time to stop those and open to something else, and you fully opened to holacracy and have just, you know, gone wild with that, just really mastering and um, sharing and spreading it so much in France and yeah, elsewhere.
yeah. And to add on that, when I stopped the sport, I mean the management sport, um, I decided not to build another company.
Mm.
I decided to try to understand what was my job on planet Earth.
Uh-huh.
That's a big question for me and for a lot of people, and I assume. And so working on that, I decided to do only what I wanted to do, not what I wanted from mind, but what I was sensing that was my job. And all from that, so IGI Partners was the first company I founded that was not triggered by me. I mean by projecting what I wanted to do, but just by uh, um, what reality was carrying. So, for instance, I never decided to do any training. But one time, some people came to me and say, "Hey, we had the dinner with you. Very interesting what you say about Holacracy, about coaching, and so on. Would you like to do a training?" And I say, "Yes." So there was a potential, and I did, and everything was like that. I didn't decide anything in my journey since 2005, even
Wow.
Holacracy.
Wow.
So when Brian explained me at the first training I followed with him about dynamic steering, yeah, it was obvious for me. So I was practicing that, even if I have a lot of bad habits to change, that's for sure. So and I am in a position I wish everybody could be, is doing what I want to do and
Mm.
live about that. But the first choice is to I decided just to do what I want to do. Um, no constraints, and I was able to do that, of course, because of previously, but and then to live from that.
Mm. Wow. That's amazing. It's so refreshing to hear, someone who has actually allowed that and surrendered into that trust and responding to what reality presents, and then having it just unfold in with such organic intelligence, and to dynamically steer that journey. Yeah.
And I decided by, let's say, by accident to rebuild an organization because of Holacracy or due to Holacracy. As I was alone when I encountered Holacracy and Brian some years ago. And at one point, I remember a discussion with Brian about, because I was, everything I learned, I want to teach others. That's my style of both sharing and also for me to integrate more further. And I had some discussion with Brian and Tom, and they were telling me, hey, there is this LHP thing. I said, well, I'm not interested, I want to stay alone. I'm not interested in licensing anything. But at some point, I was so pushed to do trainings. I was doing trainings and so on that triggers a lot of tensions, and I had a big tension with. Well, there was a big tension between Holacracy One and IGI, and we were able to integrate that tension. I remember it was late at night, and from that tension, it was processed and transformed into the first LHP contract signed. And from that, I opened myself to, okay, let's go to an organization with other people, and that began like that.
Wow. You've mentioned some of these, quote, bad habits or habits that were good in a conventional environment that were bad habits in Holacracy that you've been unlearning and practicing not doing. Could you tell us about some of those?
I think the 1 hour is not enough. We should schedule some other calls.
Maybe we will, but tell me just a
Yeah.
few. Some.
Yeah, I don't know where to begin with. Bad habits. Yeah.
Or
Uh,
habits that are not useful in Holacracy. Habits that.
yeah. Yeah. Caring about anything, wanting to control anything. Because I developed this kind of, processing here, which is quite fast.
Mhm.
So I can process a lot of things, and um, I love organization. A lot of people love dogs or whatever. I love organizations because I can sense organization. So, for instance, I was at a client today, just to give you a concrete example, and so I was facilitating a tactical meeting. And from what I can sense, I could understand that they have a lot of problem with lack of clarity of the business models. I love business models, understanding business models. Um, but that's not my job. So for me, I have to shut up because it is not my job. It is not the stance I have. I have to have within that. I'm just a facilitator and a coach on Holacracy, doing that stuff. So I have acquired a lot of reflex, um, and it is hard for me just to stay in my roles, not going overlapping on other roles.
Mm.
And I think this is for me the most difficult thing to do. And this is the main reason why when Margot was leading, it was great because I had to do that. So I tried to recover or to re-educate myself and to learn new habits. And
Mm. So this kind of goes along with unlearning the habit of being the savior or the rescuer or the
yeah,
guy
the
who.
w- the one in charge of everything.
Yes.
And I did the same with my family with 5 children. I was the same. So 30 years of bad habits.
Wow. But what a amazing capacity to self-reflect and see the, or to need to let them go. I'm sure it was just pressing you also.
Yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
it's not finished, I can tell you.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's where holacracy is a great practice and discipline, as um, I can see that every day.
Yeah. Do you want to say more about that? How it's impacted you personally in your relations? with people, or just your relationship to work and organization? You've alluded to it, but anything more you want to say about that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, there is plenty to say. That maybe the most important for me is about relationship.
Okay.
Uh, I decided to be myself, and so for those people who know me, um, yeah, I am quite, yeah, I don't do a lot of compromise or whatever. If I yeah, I think I'm more and more I am myself, which is not so easy to be in a lot of context. Um, for instance, when I have a social dinner, if I'm not more no more interested at the half of the dinner, I will get out of the table and come back home.
Mm-hmm.
Why should I stay? That kind of things,
Mm-hmm.
which is not easy to do. I learned to do that without clashing with people, which is another practice.
Yeah.
Uh, but with Holacracy, it is just so simple to become to be what I am, to show up like I am.
Mm.
Um, so for me, it's very very comfortable. Um,
Wow. So just really allowing you to be who you are without pretense or
yeah,
efforting, just a
yeah,
natural. Okay.
yeah. No, not
Cool.
playing games. Yeah.
Yeah. And in your work with clients in implementation, how do you see that manifesting, or even transmitting, or clients learning that too, or some of the shifts? I'd love to hear about some of the shifts you see as others get exposed to holacracy, and how you help guide them through those shifts, and either in your roles as facilitator or engagement lead, you know, overseeing an implementation. Just what do you see? Do you see other people going through similar journeys as yourself, or
Yeah.
is it pretty varied, or what do you see?
No, it's not very varied. It's always the same stuff. Yeah, I think we have been in contact with 8 to 9 clients within Holacracy right by now, and it's always the same story. I mean, within the first month, for instance, I have the client I was with today is we are the 5th month, and there's a big shift. And there is two major shifts from my experience. First is the CEO, and I have a lot of ex-CEO because he ratified the constitution. Too late, you're no more CEO. Of course, you can go back at any point, but now you are playing the rules of holacracy.
Mm.
But I can understand him very well, very, very well, because I was like him, and I still am like him in a part of me. So I love to do some in-person coaching with leadlings, which I do, and I'm right now even putting together a small training for leadlings
Oh, wow,
uh,
cool.
to to help them to change habits, because they understand cognitively, they understand they're okay to do that. That's not the problem. Uh, a lot of people think that holacracy, one big difficulty to holacracy is that managers don't want to share power. This is not my experience at all. A lot of CEOs want to share powers. They don't know how to do that.
Mm.
Uh, and even if they do, if they know now how to do that by ratifying the constitution, applying the rules of holacracy, and hiring a coach, it's not enough. The big part is afterwards. The big part is how to change habits. How can holacracy and the coach coaching the leadling help the leadling to change habit when he was willing to do that?
Mm.
It's like it's uh, how to change a level of unconscious skillness to another one.
Mm.
How to unlearn that to learn something new. And
Oh.
what is true for the lead link is also true for others. So there's two games. The game of the saver, the CEOs or the lead links are from all the people at the top of pyramids are savers, heroes, savers. Um, and on the other part, you have what I call professional victims. And yeah, a lot. And I have even if it's not my stance, I have a lot of compassion for professional victims, because I know they are not victims at all. It's just behavior and stance they adopted to survive in this horrible world we live in, and that they choose that. But by choosing that, they created the savior, because if there is no victim, there is no savior. So the savior, and I was a savior, I still am somehow. We are just the victim of the victim. So how to help the victims? What is the most efficient within the holacracy and the coaching to get out of that game, both from the victim side and the saver side?
That is so fascinating. I would love to go down that trail for a long time. How do you specifically coach them using the principles and practices of holacracy? How would you coach a victim, and how would you coach a rescuer or a savior?
Yeah, very easy. We have a tool, but you will not be able to see that, which is a kind of map, a process. And I use that so to model the so for instance, with the lead link, I say, hey, you have a staff, somebody is coming in your office asking you something. Before you put any word, you take that and you reflect. What is it? What is it? And second question, is it in your roles? Is it in your roles? And if you do that process, that processing, then the shift can happen. Is it in my role? No, it's not. So if it's not in your roles, don't do it. Don't save it. Don't take it. You may offer some coaching. You may offer some inputs, whatever, but don't dive in. Don't direct the if you do that, the other will not empower. Well, you know. And I do the same with the victims or people looking, for instance, in the tactical meeting I facilitate today. Somebody was carrying an item to the agenda, and when asking him what is your need, he was putting on the table something with no clarity at all, expecting I don't know what. So I take the process and say, what is it? And that, what is it? And then is it in your roles? Oh yes, it is in my roles. Okay, so what are you asking for? Or if it's not in your roles, okay, so do you know another role? And hey, secretary is here, so he can help. Is there any other role in charge of this? And then what role are you? So is it just you have to triage that to the other role, or in your role, and which role, because you have several roles, what are you asking, and which role, what? But just to put clarity. And so we have put together some tips. We have this, and we have some metrics. So for instance, the lead link of this company is a 3,000 people company. He has got a personal metric, not on Glassroll, but the personal metric. And the game we played together is because I did that. So he was asking me for help. So I said, hey, what I can give you my experience. So I have a personal indicator, which is how many times when when somebody comes to me, how many times per week, and count that, I will do that process and not solve the problem.
That's a great metric to track. Wow. Yeah. That is so cool. That is so helpful. So you just are redirecting people to use their own conscious awareness to see what is it, and is it in my role, or what role is it in, and how to take the next step from there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite easy because quite easy. Yeah, it's quite easy because it's very difficult to live within conventional organizations. So when you explain that, which I did again this afternoon, to people who have difficulty to live and to survive within an organization because of lack of clarity, because of staff coming and coming, not knowing how to do it, who was in charge to do it. When you put together a small chart asking the same question and say to you, whatever staff comes in, it's just easy to do it because you have a process to do it.
Yeah.
So that's great tool. So you have the process to do it on one hand. On the other hand, you have Glassfrog. Don't think of your roles. When I say, is it in your roles? Don't think about it. Just go to Glassfrog and verify if it is written down. If not, it is not in your roles. And then you have Glassfrog, you have this process. On the other hand, you have the what we call the individual organization system. So it makes, and people get it very fast. At the beginning, within implementation, I was very, process oriented, tactical meeting process, governance meeting process. Of course, I do that and some framing, but the great value I found it is to explain to anybody, ex-CEO, lead link, or whatever, how to process himself, the staff, all the staff coming to him.
Wow.
And that makes them very comfortable.
That is such a powerful adjunct to the meeting facilitation guidance too. Wow, that's amazing.
And they have all their map, and they use that they have on their desk, and they use it.
It makes it very objective. Here's this map. Here's Glassfrog. It's not subjective. You're not like trying to figure it out. It's just clear what to do next. And
they have to have goodies or tips, concrete tips, so that they can see that every day, 10 times, 20 times per day.
Right. I think this would relate to Richard's comment. He just typed in the chat here. Even if the CEO and executive team wants to share the power, the rest of the staff needs to believe that it's real. And sometimes the problem is getting people to trust the process and the new rules of the game. What would you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely right, Richard. The staff needs to believe. And the staff begins to believe when they can see stories like the stories I just mentioned. When they see, for instance, during the meetings or outside the meetings, that the ex-CEO is saying, "Hey, it's not in my roles," they begin to believe it. Ratification of constitution is one thing, and this is mandatory. That's for sure. But the other thing is to collect more and more stories like that during meetings. But during meetings is not enough. For instance, within that client, during meetings, I was there, facilitating there, so we had a lot of stories like that. But outside of the meetings, I will continue to play the old game. So the question I had, okay, I'm not, because as a coach, Holacracy coach, I'm not outside of the meeting, or I'm some coach in person with lead links, but I'm not in the organization. So how can I do that? And that's where I went to that, to multiply the stories. I think there is it's kind of adding more and more stories like that, so that the old habits decrease and the new habits increases. So all the shift is just about multiplying the number of new stories.
Wow. And do you think there's an inevitable kind of period of turbulence as these power shifts and distribution of authority happens in a company, because the expertise was all, held kind of closely in the hero, savior, or, could you talk about how that gets differentiated out throughout the organization, either through the hero then filling many roles, still the expertise is in that body, but it's in different roles, or how does that learning get distributed over time? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So I think we are going to come back to IGI Partners, because I can sense that very well. At the beginning, IGI Partners was just fused with me. And more and more it get diffused. At the same time, I still, as a person, feeling such a lot of roles. I'm in I'm in the way. I'm very conscious to be in the way of the development of the organization.
Mm.
Um, if I left IGI, if I do leave IGI Partners right now, I think it would be difficult for IGI Partners to right now to survive. So, and for me, it's it's my it's the big yeah, it's how it's like the main business issue I have in my mind. And so um, the I'm changing. I'm still a I'm still a hero, but not the same hero. My new hero inside me is just to, at each time there is something new coming, not yet differentiated, to make it differentiated within the organization. One, two, to allow some people like Margot is just 20 years old. She knew nothing when she was hired within IGI, but she's teachable, she's willing to learn, and so she's building capacities at very high speed.
Wow.
Allow her in new jobs. She's in charge, for instance, of training roles, which is a business. From IGI perspective, it's a big business, and I'm just filling roles within the subset called training, and she's a lead link, right? So allowing her not to ask me, and let go that I know that she will do mistakes, but she has to learn, and that's my new hero to be able to do that, because I know that if I let do that, then capacity will increase, skill of Margot within that role will increase.
Mm.
And so the company, the organization is able to survive without me more and more. And that's the game. That's the new game.
Wow.
And for
So
me,
you're
for me, for me, it's fun. It's like a child, uh, you know, and it's fun because when I'm doing that, what I discovered that I can open new spaces. It opens me new spaces. I have much more availability in my roles to discover new stuff to do.
cool. That's amazing. So do you mean like you are not open to her coming to ask for, what would you do in this situation, Bernard Marie? Are those kind of questions you're saying no to those and just figure it
No,
out
no,
yourself?
no. No, no, let me explain first. I was not clear. Sorry, my English not so good. Yeah, when she asked me anything, I'm happy to answer, happy to help.
Okay.
But we are very clear whose authority. She has the
Mm.
authority, and we have a lot of informal meetings, special topics meetings, and she will come to me and say, "Hey, do you have half an hour, 1 hour? I have some topics not easy for me, and I would like to get your input." Of course, we
Mm.
have plenty of that. But this is now, but at the very beginning, it didn't look like that because there is such a huge gap between me, ex-CEO, ex-founder, 54 years old, and Margot, only 20 years old, knowing nothing about organizations, learning everything. So at the very beginning, she was in a position that she would not go to me. It was a kind of reflex to protect her, and I had to leave that game. Um,
Mm.
I had to leave that so she can. And what I just said to her, okay, if you need anything, please feel free to ask. But she needed some months to understand that she was insecurity enough so that she can come to me not in an old conventional stance, but in a new stance when she was able to sense enough the role she was filling.
Wow. That's brilliant. So rather than tell me what to do, it's more recognizing I have authority here. I'm looking at some various options. I'd love some feedback. Kind of like that instead. Yeah, that's fantastic. And that kind of leads me into something that I'm curious how IGI Partners itself has evolved. In governance, we're always changing things around in holacracy based on present tensions. And what have you seen as kind of some general themes happening throughout IGI's history, maybe patterns of centralization, decentralization, or other things you would comment on as the history of governance at IGI? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, sure, sure. Not the question is very pertinent, but I'm just thinking of the answer.
Take your
Yeah,
time.
and no, and reflecting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of steps. Yeah, and to the question, yeah, we have. So we are running. So we have one. Uh, uh, four circles, four operational circles with and the board and the partnership circle, and we are only four, so that's quite a lot of circles. We are very rigorous at the meeting, so we have policies, we do governance within each circle, tactical strategy. Um, so we do all that. What I mentioned, so I think there is different steps. The steps where we are since some weeks, maybe months. Now we can sense the hierarchy and we are playing the roles. And like a game again, what we put in checklist is at each time I engage with somebody, either by email or vocally, I would say from my implementation role, I'm asking to you are in such role, and that like a game. And I did offer that for Christmas to my clients too. And I think that's we are. So we are playing with the scope, with the role, with the hierarchy, with the membrane, and that's where we stand. And so there was a shift at the very beginning. We were very um, focused on governance, roles, accountabilities, and so on. And now, of course, governance evolves. At the beginning, we were kind of maybe preparing some governance meetings. We don't do any preparation right now, but I don't know anybody preparing. We have our individual organizational system, so just come and see what happens. The game is more today, and since a couple of weeks or months, on the hierarchy, how to play with the hierarchy. And for instance, I have maybe 2 roles or 3 roles in the marketing circle. So, and I am the facilitator of this circle, and it's very fun for me because I am nothing in that circle, quite nothing. I mean, all the roles, the big roles in that circle is not mine. There is a website, there is strategy, strategy marketing, marketing management, a lot of stuff, and I have also almost 2 or 3 roles, but less big, small roles. And so when I facilitate and when I'm a member of this circle, wow, it's a completely shift because I say, well, I have no tension, I have nothing to nothing to do, just facilitate. And at the same time, inside myself, I have a lot of vision of everything, but from other roles. So I am processing that as soon when I facilitate. So I love this circle because it allows me to really respect the hierarchy and be aware. No, that's not a tension within that circle. Okay, let's go to the GCC. That's where it stands. Let's go to the other roles, but not here. So, and sometimes within that circle, I have no tension at all. But of course, I have a lot of tensions, but not related to this circle. And I love that. It was very surprising for me, but I love it.
So you can really discriminate what goes where, what fits in what area, and how to process attention. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where we stand right now within all the partners with IGI in terms of practice. That's where we are. We make a lot of clarity with that. A lot of.
Wow. It's amazing. Really, really cool. And how do you, with 40 roles, how do you manage your time? What's a typical day like for you? Tell us a little bit about the individual organization system practice at IGI. I know it's even more extensive, through governance than what we do at Holacracy One. So I'd love to hear that, just organizationally, and how you personally use it, how it affects your time management and stuff.
Yeah. We did decide to ratify GTD at the board level. So we have ratified Holacracy constitution, but we have also ratified 1 year later, so it was last summer, GTD, as it was required from our perspectives. What was we sensed it was required by the organization. Yeah, so well, for me, the most important issue is myself. What is my where I am in my journey, how I am situated related to my higher purpose. The higher purpose I think I have. So that's first, and I think of that every day. And
like
then
50,000-foot view, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I know, well, I'm not sure what I know is true, but maybe it's completely wrong, but it doesn't matter. I know where I want to go, and it's very clear.
Can you say what that is? Do you mind to share what that is?
Yeah, yeah, it's very easy. I want to be governed by my higher purpose. I mean, I want to be governed by something I try to sense more and more, which is very far from me. When I say me, I say all, the my ego, my attachments, my habits, and so on. So just trying to let it go that and to contact. And I learned to decide without being able to explain why I decide things. That's my favorite sport. Because as I am I have a mind, as everybody, but I use it a lot. So I was not able to say no, for instance, to somebody when I was not able to explain. That was a couple of years ago. And so I develop a sense to understand if it is yes or no, and I will be governed by that, even if my mind is not able to explain. I don't care. So my quest is to be governed. It's what I call sovereignty. Is just being governed by my soul, if you will, my who I am in reality.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and from that point, I decide what are the contexts in my life. Do I still be married, or do I stop that game? Do I have children, family, or not? Do I still put energy in IGI? So I ask myself very often the question: do I still live with my spouse, or do I still work with IGI? So I define all the context of my life, and I am very focusing on not too many things at the same time. So there is me, and there is the different context, and within this context there is IGI. And now coming within IGI, but also for the other context, I use the GTD, not only for IGI but for the other context too. So GTD is just for me. It's North Face, a very difficult North Face. It is just the opposite of me. That's why I love it. Yeah. So for me, it's difficult. I discovered that at the PCT, thanks to Brian, PCT 3 years ago or 2 years and a half, don't remember. And I decided to go there. And it's not finished, of course. It will never finish. As like Holacracy and GTD, it is just two martial arts for life, not for 3 months or 1 month, for life.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm sad we're nearing the end of our time. This is just so rich and juicy. Everything you've surfaced, we could go into at multiple levels for much longer, but I think the last thing I'd like to invite you to comment on is just what do you see for the future of Holacracy itself and your role within it, perhaps?
Well, I don't know about my role, but what I sense about Holacracy is that it allows a new world to get alive. And this
Mm.
new world is the world of organizations. I can sense, for instance, between IGI and Holacracy One, there is a lot of things happening. I don't mean between the people, I mean between the organizations.
Mhm.
Because, and this can occur because both organizations using Holacracy are developing capacities. So organization becomes very powerful. So I think I sense, because it's not related to, it's maybe I'm completely wrong, but I think we will discover in the next years some new ways we are not able to even foresee, imagine. It opens new door. I can sense how it opens new door within one organization, but that's one piece of the cake. But I think there is so much more outside
Mm.
of, allowed by this social technology inside each organization.
Mhm.
And what I can